the two-lane traveler, bringing you another road tripping video. For today's trip, we're heading to the town of Saltville, Virginia. Saltville is a small town of less than 2,000 people nestled in the mountains of southwest Virginia. It primarily sits in Smith County, but a part of it crosses the border into Washington County as well. Saltville is well named. It describes every bit of the town's history. It describes why the ancient Mastodons and Woolly Mammoths congregated here. It describes why the first Native Americans arrived here 14,000 years ago. It describes why Europeans settled here before the Revolutionary War over 250 years ago. It describes why two important Civil War battles were fought here. And it describes how the first major industry started here and how it became a company town. Salt. The town's name comes from the salt marshes that attract both man and beast. The town of Saltville has been producing salt continuously since the 1780s. The Museum of the Middle Appalachians is a great place to visit in order to better understand what the Saltville Valley was and is. The museum likes to describe their history as ranging from the Ice Age to the Space Age. For over 220 years, Ice Age fossils have been recovered from the lake beds lying under Saltville's marshes. The Saltville Valley represents one of the earliest places on record from which fossils of the Pleistocene age have been recovered in North America. The Ice Age exhibit also features full-size casts of a mastodon, woolly mammoth skull, and a giant beaver, as well as large numbers of fossil discoveries made here. A separate room focuses on the culture of the area. It tells the story of the 14,000-year history of Native Americans in the Saltville Valley. It then moves on to the first European settlers before the Revolutionary War and on to the present day. A really interesting part of Saltville's history is that it was a company town for 80 years. If you aren't familiar with the term, a company town is a community where a single company owns most or all of the town's housing and businesses, and it's also the main employer. Coal mining towns are often examples of company towns. Company towns typically have their own infrastructure, including schools, healthcare, and other amenities. Matheson Alkali Works was founded in 1892 to take advantage of natural salt deposits in Saltville, Virginia. They merged with Olin to become Olin Matheson in 1954. The name was changed to Olin after that. The company was overwhelmingly important to the town of Saltville until it closed in 1972 after 80 years. It provided workers with housing, community pools, the largest store within miles, schools, and medical facilities. The closing had a devastating impact on the town, which can still be seen and felt today. 52 years later, the company is still fondly remembered. The other side of the coin is the ongoing management of the plant location as an EPA Superfund site due to disposal operations that contaminated soil, sediment, surface water, and groundwater. After leaving the museum, there's an interesting Civil War battlefield worth visiting. Saltville was a strategic location for the Confederacy during the American Civil War. The town's salt mines were essential for preserving meat for soldiers and civilians. Two key battles were fought over the salt mines. The Battle of Cedar Branch took place on this quiet, scenic hill, though on October 2, 1864, this place was anything but quiet. 2,000 Confederate soldiers stretched over 2 miles across the bluffs where this picture was taken, along the North Fork of the Holston River. Across the river, coming from behind the mountains, was a 5,000-man Union army tasked with destroying the salt works. They came from several directions, but the main force forded the river right where the small bridge stands today. The Union Army pushed the Confederates back a short distance before running into resistance and deciding to retreat. The brief fight left about 290 Union soldiers and 160 Confederate soldiers dead or wounded. During the hasty retreat, the Union forces left behind their dead and wounded, including many African American troops. The next day, as many as 50 of the wounded African American soldiers were murdered in what became known as the Saltville Massacre. For that offense and others, the man who led the killings, Champ Ferguson, was tried, found guilty, and executed after the war. When all was said and done, the salt works were left unscathed after the battle. The Confederate victory was short-lived, however. On December 20th and 21st, 1864, 5,000 Union troops returned. There were only about 500 Confederate soldiers there to defend Saltville. Facing 10-to-1 odds, they quickly retreated, allowing the salt works to be completely destroyed. There are a handful of other sites worth seeing nearby as well. Just outside of town is the Scott Walker House. Built around 1800, it's the oldest stone house in Smith County. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. There are some churches around town as well, including the Madam Russell Methodist Church. The original section was built in 1898. It was named for Elizabeth Henry Russell, who was the sister of American founding father and Virginia Governor Patrick Henry. Next to the church is a recreation of the Russell cabin where Elizabeth and her husband, General William Russell, lived. The Palmer Mill is a recreation of an old-style grist mill that sits along a pleasant stream. The grounds are also used as a music venue on Friday nights. The King Stewart House was originally built around 1795 by William King, one of the early settlers of Saltville and one of the first to commercially extract the salt resources in the area. After Confederate General Jeb Stuart died at the Battle of Yellow Tavern in 1864, his widow Flora moved here with her children. The home remained occupied and in use into the 1960s. Salt Park illustrates the salt-making process using a brine pump. It has 2 replica cabins and a reconstructed salt furnace. A covered train display in downtown Saltville features 2 steam engines and a caboose. The locomotives were in service from the turn of the 20th century until the 1960s. The library is now a branch of the Smith County Library System, serving Saltville since 1931. It looks like there are a few good places to eat around town, but I only tried one. Coach's Diner is located near the Saltville Town Hall. The food was good, prices were very reasonable, and the service was excellent. So that's Saltville, Virginia. It's an interesting town, and the museum alone is enough reason to visit and explore, but there's lots more to see and do here. I've included a link to my map of Saltville in the comments section below. It identifies all of the locations shown and talked about in this video. If you have any questions or comments, post them below and I'll respond. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you would click the like and subscribe buttons. Thanks for watching.